You're watching the TGM production.
Hello, and welcome back to One Comedian Eight Questions, the series where I interview people because they're going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Yes, it is, as of recording and as of uploading, Monday the 20th of July, which means that Edinburgh and August and the end of the year is upon us and nigh. This is also the series where I lose control of the numbers because who decided to do maths? Me, when I'm not great at doing maths. But without further ado, we shall crack on. My guest today is best known for being a comedian. It's one and only Eva Peroni.
Woo! Hey, yo, Tom. How's it going?
All right. So let's begin with the Wheel of Doom, which isn't Doom, but I said that, so we'll leave that in. Let's start off with our wheel and see what our question number one shall be. Du-du-du-du-du. What is it? Du-du-du. Here we go. What is the key thing you would or wouldn't change about doing the fringe for the first time? What's one thing that if you've already done the fringe before, what's one thing that you want to improve on, or if you haven't done it before, what's one thing you've been looking at and thinking, I don't want to make that same mistake.
Yeah, I mean, this is my debut show, so like I've never done like a proper hour-long Fringe show. I did do a split bill last year, but to be honest, like I really wouldn't change anything about the way that I did the split bill. Like split bills are fun, and it's just like you have a laugh with a mate for like a year.
Hmm.
A year? Feels like a year
Yeah.
sometimes. For like a month. So that was ideal. I would say for the debut, like something that I was really quite cautious of is that I wanted to try and find a natural story, but I knew that I wanted to have a story.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I didn't want
Yeah.
to do that classic debut thing of like, these are all of my best jokes and I'm gonna
Yeah.
force a through line for into them. But I also didn't want to be like, oh, I'll create an entire story. I wanted to find some like a natural
Yeah.
story and then write to that, but also be able to use some material that I've been working on for the couple years that I've been doing stand up.
Hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned there the word year, and I assume it's like Christmas where you don't know whether or not it's still the Christmas period or if it's New Year yet. I'm assuming from what I can gather, Edinburgh's a lot like that. You're not too sure what day it is, what year it is, and who on earth you are by day two.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It very much all blends together. And I think like even for me right now, because I live in
Yeah,
Edinburgh throughout the year,
yeah,
it's like I'm seeing all the poster boards going up and it's
mm,
like the way that it sort of makes you feel before it's even all started. It does kind of feel already like it's in the fringe, and
mm,
Edinburgh's packed at the moment. There's
yeah,
so many tourists, so it just like I'm kind of surprised that people are not flyering me
yeah,
when I walk into work and things like that.
yeah, yeah. And I've mentioned it a few times before, but I think that. And I think because of the way that the fringe is like getting bigger and bigger each year, because there's more people going, I'll do it. I think that I don't think this year will be as busy as last year with Oasis. I don't think you'll have as many people there as you did last year, because obviously last year you had well you had the Edinburgh Fringe, and then I think you had the TV festival and Oasis all in the same week. Do you think that Edinburgh needs to expand itself by like building the roads outwards further?
No, I don't think so. The thing is, like, Edinburgh, you can't move for empty flats and things like that in Edinburgh. Like, there is enough space for everyone, but because people like the landlords and stuff drive up the prices so
Yeah.
much, it means that there's still accommodation that goes unused during the fringe.
Mm.
Um, and I think we've lost the TV
Yeah.
festival. I think it's not
Yeah.
going to be in Edinburgh anymore. Um, but I do think that like I think the Fringe will continue to thrive in Edinburgh, regardless of like expansion or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's so well established. Like it's been years and years and years now.
Yeah. And I think losing the TV festival sort of it doesn't I think some people are a little bit upset by it, which is
Yeah.
understandable, but I think that it sort of helps to expand it because it's meant that you're not just tied to one area anymore. You can just say, well, this year we'll have it in wherever, and they can move it around to fit the needs of where the biggest portion of the industry are knocking about. So I do think that moving the TV fringe is a positive step for that festival. And do you think that losing, in your opinion, as a comedian, do you think losing the TV festival will stop there being as many TV people knocking about watching shows when they're there when they're not doing their festival?
I had actually not like thought about it at all, but I guess that anyone who has an interest in hiring like comedians for TV would come to the Fringe anyway,
Yeah,
because the TV festival isn't as long as it's only 10 days, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
So I think they would come to the Fringe anyway, and anyone who wouldn't come is not a huge loss because they're probably not that interested.
yeah. And on that note, let's spin the wheel for our second question, and
Oop,
the
oop.
final time we'll know what number we're on because that's the
Okay.
way we roll. Let's see. Ooh. So who is one, or it could be a selection. I'm not. We're not tied down like Jack Black in Gulliver's Travels, um, to the word one, but it could be one or multiple. So who is one or multiple comedians you would love to be on a bill with, as a comedian yourself? Who would you want to perform with? or work with, as in a sense of not just oh this is the lineup, but also be able to like interact with them before and after, and then going on either before or after them.
I had a lovely one at the Stand Edinburgh, like a weekend, which was nice because it was like we all got on so
Yeah,
well on the Friday, and then it was like, oh, great, we get to come back on the Saturday.
yeah,
I think that was Tom Wrigglesworth, Harriet Dyer, Ray Bradshaw, and a Scottish-based comedian, Chris Weir, who's excellent. And that was really lovely. I really, really liked Harriet
yeah,
Dyer. I mean, obviously she's got such a electric stage presence, and she wasn't that different backstage, so I was like, that's
yeah, yeah,
that's great.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
super funny. So I would say Harriet Dyer. Sophie Hagen is like my number one. I'm obsessed with
yeah,
her. I've listened to all of her books. I listen to her podcast and everything like that.
yeah,
I would love to be on a bill with her. I just think her work is excellent, and I imagine her to be a really nice person that I would get on with well. I'm trying to think of like a rogue one to throw in. Who's like really funny off stage? Ryan Cullen is hilarious
yeah,
off stage. And he's recently like I don't know if you know Ryan Cullen's stand up, but he's like he does like dark stuff,
yeah,
right? Yeah, dark
yeah,
one-liners. But he's recently going through this sort of like
yeah,
spiritual journey type thing. And so it's weird to see these
yeah,
two like sides of him sort of
yeah,
clashing, where he's talking about like energies and stuff in the green room, and then the next second he's saying something horrendous, and you're like, okay,
yeah,
he's fine.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, so I would say that. I think they're all excellent performers and people that I would like to spend time with.
yeah. And bad joke alert, but but you mentioned dark one-liners. What I think of that is, even though it's not what I'm about to say it is, I think it's when you turn the lights off and just recite a lot of one-liners in the dark because it's a
Yeah.
it's a dark one-liner. What an awful joke. Well done, me. But I do think that people like Harriet Dye, when you see her in all these clips, and when she's done all these things, her personality never changes. It's not like she's
Oh.
when she's on TV, she's one person, and when she's doing something else, she's a different. To me,
Yeah.
it feels like she's just fell on stage and accidentally not thought I might alter my persona slightly. She's just
Yeah.
went. Nah, I'll be me. And if I'm not mistaken, she did have a lobster, or it must be a crab. She had a claw on at one point,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So I do think that that just sounds like her normally. I just
Yeah.
assume she just walks around with claws on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think that when you see a comedian on stage, do you think that you can tell if it's a persona, or do you think that you know if it might be what they're like off stage?
I think it really depends, like, on who it is and I guess how they present
Yeah,
themselves on stage. Because so that like there's some people where you just watch them do stand up and they're maybe like just a straight stand
yeah,
up and um they just are doing normal jokes and they maybe have like a bit of a nice energy to them and you know that that person is probably not going to be nasty or anything backstage.
yeah,
um Chris Forbes was the example of that. I didn't meet Chris Forbes um until like he's a Scottish based
yeah,
comedian, but just we'd never been on the same bill together until maybe about 3 months ago, four
hmm,
months ago. But he was someone where it's like I've seen him do stand up, and so I know that he's gonna be a nice guy.
yeah,
Whereas I think when people do something like slightly more alternative, you never actually know. I think it's the more that it
yeah,
comes across a character on stage, the less that you can be certain how they're going to be off stage. Because
yeah,
some guys in particular do the whole awkward deadpan delivery,
yeah,
and some of them are like that off
yeah,
stage,
yeah,
and some of them are not like that off stage, and some of them are like that off stage and maybe not so like kind or whatever, and some
yeah,
of them are like that off stage and they're just lovely, but they're just really, really awkward.
yeah,
um, which is super fun. I kind of love those guys like a lot. Um, yeah, I think it's hard to tell. And then you'll also like I come on stage like all guns blazing, screaming, shouting, and I am an energetic person off stage, but like it's amped up
yeah,
massively. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So
Yeah, so it's like the example I used in a previous interview was that Sam Campbell probably isn't the way he is on
yeah.
stage. He isn't, well, if he is like that, I'm really concerned.
Yeah.
You might want to call for some help, but I don't think that that really is him, because
Yeah.
on stage you look at him and go, I'm not too sure what I'm watching here. I'll probably get onto it in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
do you think that that sort of helps if you can if someone like Sam Campbell, for example, or John Kearns or anyone in that sort of same sort of circle, do you think it's helpful for them to have a different persona on stage than in real life they're all real, but in off stage life, because then you can do that thing that 9 to 5 people do, where they can separate work and then their own life.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I guess it does protect you a little bit, but I mean, especially for something like Sam Campbell is so famous now and is so famous for being the way that he is. And so I wonder if it doesn't, if it almost goes the other way where like your
Yeah,
stage persona starts to infringe on your real life. Because like, what's he doing if he's meeting fans?
yeah,
Does he then have to turn it on again?
yeah.
Or,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, because Sam Campbell is a weird person. Where else, other than Channel 4, could you see Rose Matafeo, Sam Campbell, and Debbie McGee in a cave in one thing? Only in the mind of Sam Campbell. But
yeah,
yeah, but Debbie McGee in comedy is a different thing altogether. That is hilarious to begin with.
yeah.
Any setting where Debbie McGee's there. Well, first of all, a name suits really well for a comedy character.
Oh, it's excellent.
Yeah,
McGee. I
yeah,
mean, McGee's just one of those names that's always gonna be funny,
yeah,
no matter what. It's just one of those names that's just
yeah.
always gonna be funny, and there's no reason for it to be
Yeah.
funny, but like, I think I had teachers in school. I think I had a teacher in school,
Yeah,
Mrs. McGee, at some point, and it's just good.
yeah, yeah, and that works really well when a teacher has a very funny last name.
Yeah.
But for example, my favorite example is we had a substitute teacher called Mr. Hobbs. I was dying, I never did, but I was dying to ask him what was his favorite biscuit, because I wanted to know if the joke worked. Um, but who knows? He probably knows, but not me.
Yeah.
But on that note, as we move on to our third question, and let's see where it lands, because that's how it works. Ooh. This is, I would say philosophical is the correct word, in this, because what other word would work? Many more. How in personally at this moment in time, obviously there's still time left. If you were asking someone at the other end of this spectrum, they would have a more fuller, more depressing, sadder answer, because they're at that end of life. But from where you are now, how has comedy changed, or if it hasn't changed it in a significant way, altered your life?
Um, I think like so you're I think we're the same age. Are you 22?
I am 22, only recently
Yeah,
22.
me too. When's your birthday?
June the 8th.
Oh, we're like very close in age. I'm
Yeah.
June 22nd.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, so like obviously I'm very young
Yeah,
and I was even younger when I started. I was 17 when I started, but I started comedy in Costa Rica.
yeah,
Um, so that was interesting. And then, but I was sort of like, I was part of the circuit over there, but I was more on the fringe of it because I lived on a college campus
yeah.
and we had like a time that you had to be back and things like that. So I would come out and I would do gigs, um, but then I would have to like go back. So I never had the opportunity to like hang out or anything like that. Um, in Scotland. Oh, I think by the time that I started comedy in Scotland, I was like 19, which I was not the youngest ever on the scene, which is annoying because like it's cool to be the youngest on the scene.
Yeah.
Um, but I would have been like the second youngest. And I think like it's definitely changed how I interact with people because all of my friends are adults,
Yeah.
like proper adults. And now I go to uni, and so now I have friends that are like a few years younger than me. But um before that, like all of my friends were adults, and so I think like you just the way that you converse with people changes, and I think you have to, or maybe you don't have to, but you just do become more
Mm.
self-assured.
Yeah,
Like I feel like I have quite a good sense of self, especially compared to like other people who are my age.
yeah,
So I think that's definitely been one way where it's altered sort of the trajectory um that my life has gone down. And then other than that, it's just like just generally like comedy is probably most of my life right now.
yeah,
Like it's I do it more than my job,
yeah.
my actual job. And sometimes do it more than uni, which is probably
Yeah.
not what I should be doing, but yeah.
Wow. Um, but you mentioned there about Costa Rica. Now, this is probably showing how horrendous I am at geography. So who knew I was going to out myself for being awful at geography? I did, because I just said it. Now I'm assuming Costa Rica's near Spain. It sounds very Spanish. But did you have to learn the language to be able to do? I'm not gonna pretend to know what language it is. You're gonna have to. Did you do the sets in English, or did you have to learn whatever language they speak in Costa Rica? I do apologize for anyone that is from Costa Rica, but yeah, I wasn't very good at maths. I don't even know what an oxbow lake is, so that says everything.
I also don't know what an oxbow lake is. I know that people that do geography love oxbow lakes, but I didn't ever do it. Costa Rica is not near Spain, but it is near South America. So like they do speak Spanish.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you've done really well.
yeah,
Um yeah, I did it. I did comedy in Spanish,
yeah,
but I already had a really good grasp of
yeah,
Spanish by the time that I started doing
yeah,
comedy. I think it would be like a completely different thing if Well, I'm not actually sure because like I've seen comics in the UK that like don't have perfect English
Yeah,
or whatever. But I think the thing is like a lot of people who live in a country that speaks a different language, especially European countries, most European countries
yeah,
have in at least some regard an English speaking scene.
yeah,
Whereas Costa Rica doesn't. Like, I was the only foreign comedian in the entire country. So it was like, you do comedy in Spanish or you just don't do comedy.
yeah,
But I think, like, a few things about it, like, were really nice. Like, I think that the Spanish language lends itself quite well to comedy because a lot of it rhymes and there's a lot of nice like
yeah,
expressions and things like that that are already written into the language, so you have to do less like creative turns of
yeah,
phrase on your own.
yeah,
um and also because I was the only foreign comedian, I then had the ability to do that thing where it's like, this is what you guys are like
yeah.
from an outsider perspective, and people love it. They're like, oh my God, we are like that. Ah.
Yeah, yeah, and we, there's a comedian called Ignacio Lopez
Yeah.
who knew I was going to get that correct, not me. He made a very observation that I think is quite interesting. So when you mentioned that you came to Scotland and then did some comedy. For him, when he was doing stuff in Spanish and then tried to translate it, the comedy doesn't work. Did you
Yeah.
notice that when you then did some of the same material uh, in Scotland, did you notice that the gags didn't might have not worked as well because of the way that some words in Spanish don't easily translate, or some of it only works because of because of where you are, because it's because of the audience.
Yeah, I think like they're definitely I I feel like though I kind of was aware of that, and so I
Mm,
only maybe had one joke that I translated
yeah,
anyway, which I would say worked kind of in both languages because it was more of like a shock factor
yeah,
joke than anything else. Um I guess though the difference between me and Ignacio Lopez is like he is a native Spanish speaker, and so
mm,
he would understand the nuances of
yeah,
things better. He would understand why certain words in a Spanish set would be getting a laugh, whereas I
yeah,
would just like, oh, this bit got a laugh, so I'll not ever change the way that I
yeah,
said it ever. Whereas obviously in English I write very differently. Um but yeah, I didn't really translate very much
mm,
at all. Um, I can see why it wouldn't work. The other thing is that obviously, um, Costa Rica is a more conservative country, as in like socially conservative, and so like when I moved to Scotland, I was doing jokes about like being queer and things like that, which I would have sort of avoided
yeah,
talking about in Costa Rica. Just I mean, I was never really in any danger, but just you don't want to place yourself
yeah,
in a situation where the audience doesn't like you because of part of
yeah,
your identity, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and do you think that because you've now gigged in both English and Spanish, it means that when you end up doing like world tours, or when because comedians end up branching out from just the one country, it means that you can tailor instead of having to like do Richard Herring where he would have to go and watch his own show read back to him in another
Yeah.
language. You can go to like a Spanish speaking country, and obviously over time you'll probably develop your Spanish, but you'd be able to go to a Spanish country and translate your whatever show you're doing at that moment into a Spanish speaking into a Spanish language so that you can then perform it internationally.
I would love to do that. I think that that would be such a cool thing to do. I mean, like, I think it's so cool that like Sergi Polo comes and does like English shows and Spanish shows. He asked me to do his tour support
Yeah,
recently, like both the English one and the Spanish one. I was on holiday, so I couldn't do it, but it's definitely something that I would love to develop. My only worry would be that because I live here,
yeah,
what if I were to like write an hour of stand up in Spanish and like I don't have the opportunity to test it
Yeah.
anywhere. So then I'm just like going over and I'm like, right, I've got this hour long show, and then people come and it's
Yeah.
just not funny at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you could probably start up your own Spanish club
Yeah.
for both Spanish people in Scotland and the people that are interested in learning Spanish
Yeah.
and want to giggle in Spanish. Obviously, they'll be laughing in it in the whatever. Well, you don't obviously laugh in a language, which is an awful turn of
Yeah.
phrase. Um, you just be saying the word "ha" in whatever language you're saying it
But
in.
have you seen how like so when you're typing like
Yeah,
laughter in English we go ha
yeah.
H-A. In Spanish it's J-A. So I guess it's a
Wow.
bit different. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Or it's just Jimmy Carr's laugh, but in reverse. Um, but on that note, as we breathe in the laughter, we shall move on to the next question. Let's see what it will be. Diddle-diddle-diddle. Now, from years of experience of doing these interviews, this isn't as common as it once was, unless you are James Acaster or Jimmy Carr that invite it to occur. Other people probably do it as well, but they're the
Mm.
most notable people that say, "I want it." Some people just get it by accident. But as a comedian, when you're on stage, how do you personally handle when you get a heckler or you get someone calling out something that you weren't sort of prepared that they were gonna yell out?
Um, I mean, yeah, I guess it probably doesn't have happen as much as it used to. As long as the compere has done an okay job of like getting things under control.
Mm,
Um, I would say like there's kind of for me there's three types of heckles.
yeah,
There's heckles that are funny and then you don't actually need to do anything. You can just repeat back what they've said, let people laugh, go, that's good, and then move on.
mm.
And then there's heckles that are mean, but I do have like I have bits in my set that often get the same response from someone that's trying to be antagonistic.
Yeah.
Like if I say, "Have we got any lesbians in?" and a guy goes, "Whoa." And then it's like you've got for things like that that
Yeah.
happen all the time, you've got a response in your pocket that you've said one time, and then it's like that got a laugh, so then you'll just say it every time that you get that same heckle. So most of them for me are like lesbian related ones.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then the other type is like people who want to add information, like people who want to let you know
Yeah.
something, and they're not trying to be nasty and they're not trying to be funny. They're just trying to relate to you.
Yeah.
And those are often the most annoying ones because it's like you do have to stop your set to talk to them. But like, yeah, yeah. So like a lot of the time so I'm from like this place in Scotland which is like in between Edinburgh and Glasgow, but it's not a city. So often when I'm doing a gig, it's like there will maybe be one person in the audience that's from where I'm from,
Yeah.
but because it's a small enough place, they'll feel some sort of connection with me because we're from the same place. And so they'll often want to tell me that they're from Livingston as well. And so then I'll have to stop it. But yeah, with that, it's like you just need to. I think it was Raymond Mearns who told me this, and Raymond Mearns is like one of the kings of like crowd
Yeah.
interaction in
He's brilliant.
Scotland. Yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah.
And he told me he was like because I want to be quite a hosty act. Like I've
Yeah.
done hosting for Monkey Barrel and The Stand and like Gilded and stuff. I want to be an act that people can book to host as well. So I was talking to him about it and he said, don't look for the laugh right away,
Yeah.
ask them one, two, three questions about themselves, and then you've got all of that information to
Mm.
get a laugh off of
Yeah.
rather than just like whatever information they've offered up. But yeah, I think like generally with people interrupting, it's like you want to give them the time of day,
Yeah.
especially if they're not trying to be mean. You give them the time of day, and then as soon as you can get away from talking to them, do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that Raymond Mearns, who is a very nice fella, I've interviewed him, he's very nice.
Oh yeah.
I would say that, and and anyone can take it anyway. Like, I would say that he's like the modern, like, more sort of like like I don't know how to word it, but he's like the more modern version of Billy Connolly, if you will. So like
Yeah,
everyone has something nice to say about him. It's like when you think of Billy Connolly and you hear all these stories like, or Adam Hill spoke to him or whatever, and he remembers all these people. I think Raymond Mern sort of has that spirit. So, no pun intended, but he has sort of the. I mean, he's probably never won the. I don't know if he has won the
he's
whatever
been
that.
nominated, I think, twice, but I don't think
Yeah,
he's taken it.
but I do think that he has that sort of feeling that you'll never hear. Well, I don't. There's millions of people on this planet, so there's probably
Yeah,
one or two, but you'll never hear a bad story about him.
yeah,
And do you think that that sort of like represents how nice the industry can be because there's people like him that are willing to give advice to younger acts or just to anyone really?
for sure. And I think like this is the thing, like we all love to talk about who we don't like,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, like there's actually for every comedian that a lot of people don't like, there's 10 that pretty much everyone
yeah,
likes. Like it is actually and especially in Scotland, and obviously I'm going to be biased to that, but
yeah,
I find especially in Scotland we have very much a camaraderie, and people are very nice to each
yeah.
other and nice to the new acts and things like that. And yeah.
Yeah, and we mentioned hecklers, and I think one of the things I keep on seeing more often online now is the fact that you have comedians, and now instead of just interacting with the heckler, they say to him, I've seen it like three times by three different people where they've offered the heckler to come on stage to give out a joke. I don't know if that's a common thing that happens more often than I'm led to believe. But I do think it's really awkward on
Yeah.
everyone's side of the field where he says, "Oh, come on, mate, you tell a joke then," because I think it's the comedian being a little bit like annoyed, and
Yeah.
then it's obviously the heckler wanting to say, "Well, I can do it," and then they get no laughs.
Yeah.
That bit
That is
makes me
super
laugh.
awkward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, makes me laugh when they get no laughs because it just proves the point that they were annoying to begin with. But
Yeah.
but do you think that because of the way that people have obviously because it's online everywhere and people see videos of heckles and whatnot and people are offering the opportunity to ask for heckles, do you think that's why people are less likely to do heckles now because they don't see the appeal of it being spontaneity anymore because you can go to a Jimmy Carr gig and he'll say, I want some hecklers, or obviously James Acaster's Hecklers Welcome show. Do you think that that's why there's less hecklers than there once was because of these bigger comedians offering to have people yell out stuff?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Because, like, I think that with the way that social media has went, it's like you have the comedians that are big for crowd work. The one that we have up here is Stuart Mitchell, right? Stuart Mitchell,
Brilliant.
huge for crowd work, and he puts on like 5 shows
Yeah,
every weekend in Blackfriars in Glasgow, and they all sell out. So like, yeah, the people who are wanting to be like have their moment and be like included in crowd work, they're going to see Stuart Mitchell, so
yeah,
they're not coming to the clubs. So yeah, I guess you're probably right.
yeah, yeah. And but before we move on, I've got to mention if we were mentioning Stuart Mitchell, I do think the greatest clip of all time, and I think he must be the greatest comedic moment of all time where he's thinking there's a bloke that looks like PC Plum from Balamory, and it turns out it really is him
No
in the
way.
back, and it's the greatest thing ever because he says on the lines of "You look like that PC Plum out of Balamory," and the people around him go, "I am. He is. He is. He is." And then obviously when you read the comments, the bloke that plays PC Plum in the comments said, "Oh, it was a great night." But
No way.
it's the fact that then he gets and PC Paul gets like a whole minute or like 30 seconds or whatever of him just being of Stuart Mitchell saying the most funniest gags about him
Yeah.
possible because obviously nowhere else on planet Earth could you just be stood there and go, is that oh that's
Yeah.
PC Plum and obviously that at that point he's like a it's like a rock star. And
That's so funny.
I just think it's incredible because obviously actors and obviously famous people are just wandering about,
Yeah,
and you don't expect Casey Plum just to be sat in an
yeah.
audience of a comedy club because you just think he hangs around in children's theatre. I can't
No,
imagine him.
he has to have a normal life as well.
Yeah, yeah, and before we do briefly move on, there's a program where Julie Nimoy and Greg, I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name, they do wild swimming, right?
Right.
And it's Greg Headforth. I've said his last name horrendously wrong, but he was one of the people that did Still Game, and they go to Tobermory, and obviously in regular life, Greg's seemingly more famous than she
Yeah.
is. But when they get to Tobermory, he gets really angry because everyone swarmed around her and everyone
That's so
talking to her,
funny.
and he's like, "But does anyone know?" But no one knows who he is. So essentially, the crowd of
Yeah,
people are watching them wild swim just because he wants to speak to Miss Hooley out of Balamory.
that is so funny.
And he's like, and she even wrote a quote when they announced it was Teddy. She says, "The Bagamory Union is bigger than Oasis." I just love to know what the Oasis
So
boys thought of
true.
that. But on that note, before we get trapped in a coloured house, is it green? Is it yellow? Which colour house is it instead? We shall move on. That was the worst joke. That was horrendous. Due to the fact that I probably got the song wrong. So in every profession, that's artistic in a sense of profession that doesn't mean when you get the job you get the title. Some jobs you take like 20, 30 years, and there's time frames when you can legally say this is my job. But
Yeah.
at what point in your life so far did you decide, yeah, I'm gonna call myself a comedian, or are you not at that point where you think you can write on your CV, on your LinkedIn profile, comedian?
Yeah, no, I don't like it's an argument that I have all the time with my friends and family
Mm.
is that like I'll still call comedy a hobby,
Yeah,
and it's like it's not really a hobby because I get really stressed about it,
yeah,
and it's like I do make more money now from comedy than from my job. I mean, Thursday's my last day of my job, so I guess that after Thursday I kind
mm,
of need to start. But then it's also like I'm a student,
yeah,
so I'm not yeah, I think
yeah,
it's really difficult, and it's like even on Tuesday I was having a bit of a like thingy with other comics. I was headlining Red Raw at the stand,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
like it's a headline spot, but it's a new material night, and it's like I'm also still on like I would consider still being on like trial headlining
yeah.
Red Raw. It's like if one were to go really wrong, I think they wouldn't let me headline it again for
Yeah,
a while. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I was doing that, and I was talking to someone, and I was like, oh yeah, like I think I'm feeling the pressure because obviously I'm a new act. And
Mm,
she was like, you're not a new act. And I was
yeah,
like, I am a new act. I have the, and then it was like, but when do you actually not, when are you not a new act anymore? And then I was in my head, I was like, maybe I'm not a
mm,
new act. Maybe
yeah,
I'm like taken away from other people being new acts by calling myself a new act. And then someone tagged
yeah.
me in like a video for a gig that I'm doing next week, and it was like one of the best new acts in Scotland, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, but but I think that at a certain point, I think you stop being a new actor and become an up and coming because
yeah,
honestly, I don't think there is a coming, right? I don't think there's a point where you've reached that point because there is never that
no,
that that ceiling. So some people would say, oh, when you're on Taskmaster, but then that ceiling breaks again. Some people would
yeah,
have said like the Apollo, and then they would have said Taskmaster, and then they would have said da 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 da, and that
yeah,
ceiling never sort of breaks. Every person has got their own opinion of where the ceiling
yeah,
is. If you've done blank gig at whatever venue, you've made it because
yeah,
it's a venue that you wish to do. Like there's an Australian comedian. She had a dream gig at a dream venue. I would say that that's
yeah,
her point of where it's gone. Well, now she's come up. She's no longer up and coming because she's got
yeah,
to her dream. But I think that it's not like a regular job where you get the job. Yes, now you're an accountant. Yes, you've only done
Yeah.
a, you're not a new accountant. You're just an accountant. Um, Definitely not like the film accountant because not no accountants get given guns. But it's an odd film. But it's one of those things where do you think that comedy and the arts in itself is the only sort of industry where there's no like time frame when you can say on a job app when you can say on a CV that you are blank because there is no rules. Unlike it's probably like when you get paid. Some people say it's when you get your first paid gig or whatever, but I don't think there's because not everyone does that in the end of the
Yeah.
day. But do you think that the art itself is the only industry that doesn't have a barrier when you can say on a CV, this is what I do as a job, rather than just this is what I do as a side thing?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but on that note, with the giant books, we shall spin on to our next question, which because I don't do numbers, we don't know what number this is at. Ooh. Now we're heading back. As we've discovered, um, you are still young, so we're probably not heading as far back
Yeah.
as other people. Um, but as a child
Mm-hmm.
or as a young person, it's up to you which angle you take this, whether or not you were a 6-year-old or a 16-year-old. But as a child or as a wee nipper, um, what type of TV show or film, if you're one of those odd people that have never seen this TV show in their life and have only ever watched films, there probably is someone out there. What TV show or film inspired you as a child that made you go, I really like this, and then looking back at it now, it subconsciously put the words I want to do comedy in the back of your head.
Um, that's a really good question. Actually, I guess I'm not 100% sure that that's like what would have inspired me to do comedy. I never was one for watching. I'd never really seen like Still Game or anything like that.
Right.
I have watched it now,
Yeah.
obviously, but like I didn't watch sitcoms as a child.
Hmm.
I guess the first show that was like a comedy show that I watched was what was it called? Russell Howard's Hour? Was that what it was called?
I think if we're on about the BBC one, I think it was like Good News or something. I think the original one was
Yeah.
Good News. The Sky one was the Russell Howard Hour.
Right, okay. I think it was actually the Sky one.
Oh, okay.
Um that I liked that a lot
Yeah,
and I would watch that a lot. Um but I think that really what what made me have an interest in stand-up comedy is that my dad was a stand-up
yeah,
comedian. And so even though he stopped performing like when I was born, I always had that in the
yeah.
back of my mind as like that's a thing that's a possibility to do.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I liked watching Russell Howard, and then obviously I got into like when I was a teenager, I got into like the panel shows
Yeah,
and things like that. But then it wasn't actually until I was quite a bit older and I'd already started doing comedy that I got into watching sitcoms. I think the only thing that you could even consider a sitcom that I had watched as a child would be like The Big Bang Theory.
yeah.
I don't think that's inspiring anyone to get into comedy.
No.
No.
I've got nothing wrong with Chuck Lorre, but I mean, who knew Big Bang Theory could spin off into another spin-off, and then that spin off into another spin-off,
Yeah.
and now they're spinning off into a sci-fi program.
Seriously.
Yeah, so it went Big Bang Theory, and then Young Sheldon was what you would deem a modern sitcom to be with
Yeah.
no studio audience.
Yeah.
Then the spin-off from that joined him and it became a studio sitcom again. And now Stuart Fails to Save the Universe, which is a spin-off of Big Bang Theory, is a proper sci-fi thing about multiverses and
That's crazy.
and time travel and Stuart, the comic book guy, tried to save the universe. Who'd have thought that that would have been the
Yeah.
trajectory of Big Bang Theory, where Jim Parsons now says in all the articles he hated doing Big Bang Theory as the worst moment of his life.
Really?
He would never do it again for any money. Um,
Wow.
Even though he did the voiceover in Young Sheldon
Yeah.
as well, obviously as
Yeah.
Sheldon. But I definitely it's Big Bang Theory is one of those things where you sort of have to realize it's funny. I mean, it's
Yeah.
enjoyable. I mean, you can watch it and go, oh,
Yeah.
that's good, but it's not as funny as people say. It's an enjoyable thing to sit
Yeah.
there and watch, but you wouldn't pit it in Comedy Hall of Fame
No.
because that's the crown of in that joke in America is still Joey, which is a hilarious joke. But Joey's a spin-off of Friends that isn't very good.
Right.
So yeah, it's a poor joke.
I
But
mean, a spin-off of Friends, yeah, doesn't sound
no,
very good.
no. But I do think that when you think about Russell Howard, I do think he has that sort of persona that works in all fields. And I don't, and you will have seen it, but I do think the greatest Russell Howard moment of all time from the Russell Howard hour is in finding out that Greta Thunberg has baked beans in her cupboard. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's a clip I watch over and over again, and sometimes if I really, because I'm not the greatest fan of Greta, because all I know about education is that if you're off school for a certain amount of time, especially in the United Kingdom, you get fined. So
All
I just,
right.
so I just, so if you're off like, I don't know, like 3 weeks or something, you get fined like 60 quid or whatever.
Really?
There's a fine. And I
Wow.
just assume it's probably not, I'm assuming it's the same in Sweden. So I'm assuming that parents have got a
Having to
lot of
pay
fines,
on.
might, because the amount of time she's off school. I mean, there's probably exceptions because she's obviously doing good. She's not just
Yeah.
bunking off to go and watch How to Train Your Dragon in the cinema. She's going off to solve world
Well,
problems.
do we actually know that she wasn't also watching How to Train Your Dragon in the
Well,
cinema?
who knows? Who knows? She probably loves Hiccup. Uh, I can just imagine that. But
Yeah, I
it
mean, the dragons are like a fuel-free travel method, so
yeah,
she'd probably be right in on that.
yeah, yeah. But I do think that the whole thing about baked beans is like you
Yeah,
think of her as this clever person,
yeah,
but it brings you right down to earth when you find out she's making frog hats and got baked beans in a cupboard,
yeah,
and it's like. Really? Is
yeah.
that really the level she's got to? But you have to have it at the pastime. That is her hobby.
I
It
do
is.
think it's funny that it was like when I was when we were like younger children, well, like I guess older children, not teenagers
Yeah,
yet, the most famous like girl was Malala.
yeah,
And she was super famous because she went to school. She
yeah,
went to school. And then when we became like middle teenagers, it was like Greta Thunberg, famous, did not go to school.
yeah,
And it was like, what do you want me to do,
yeah,
man?
yeah. And before we move on, I don't know if you've seen the Channel 4 sitcom. I think it's called We Are Lady Parts.
No.
It's really good in the second series. So it's about a Muslim rock band, and that's what's groundbreaking about it because there's not many.
Yeah.
Sitcoms or very much light-hearted programs about female Muslims in that sort of regard. And one of the songs was Malala made me do it, and they've got Malala on the back of a horse, or is it a unicorn? It's a creature, but just in a dream sequence whilst they're singing about the fact that they've got to this place because of her, and they're trying to come up with inspiration for their next big thing.
Yeah.
And I just think, in what world? Who had to pitch that to her?
What?
She,
They've got actual
yeah,
Malala?
yeah,
No
yeah,
way.
yeah. So Malala that's now appeared in Graham Norton and The One Shot appeared in a Channel 4 sitcom.
Oh.
Someone's gone to her and gone, right, you've got to sit on this back of this horse whilst they're all singing a song about you. You've just got to just look like you're not interested because you're not really there. You're a figment of their imagination. She was like, hey, well, I want to go back to uni and do boat. I want to
Yeah.
be like a normal person. That's why I've come here. Not Channel 4 sitcom.
Do you think she's got an agent?
I reckon she does. She's got a book out. She's got a book out. And so
Yeah,
she's been on Graham Norton. She's been on the One
yeah.
Show. She's been on the One Show twice.
I mean, she's
Uh,
quite up for a laugh from what I've seen about
yeah,
Malala. I really like Malala. I think she's class.
yeah,
And also Malala is funny.
yeah,
Like, she's a funny person and she's quite likable and like charismatic in the interviews. But also, the concept of Malala is just funny. Like, it's just
yeah.
one of those things that is just funny. Like, I'm assuming you know the Finley Christie bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like that's just it's not a funny bit for any reason other than like Malala is just a funny thing to talk
yeah,
about.
yeah. She was on the One Show with Russell T Davis talking about Tiptoe.
Yeah.
I think he must be. Is someone talking about tennis? And she's
Yeah.
talking about the other end of her book because I think she must have had a sequel out. And
Yeah.
uh, and so they had a break in conversation to ask her about what does she think about cricket because I think her boyfriend's a cricket player, and it's about the
Oh,
fact that she's trying to get into cricket. And then
that's
she's
so
trying to
funny.
she's like she's left political activism to try and get into cricket. She's like,
Yeah.
I just love cricket, and she supports all teams.
Right.
She's
Just
Switzerland about it.
all them.
Yeah, she's Switzerland about it. But
She just supports cricket.
yeah. Who do, yeah, and cricket's a boring thing, I'll tell you. But as we're way off track to where we were meant to be, but I do think that if you look at the trajectory as on TV as a child, the three most I would say this is a horrendous joke. The three most famous things come out of our time with one, Roy the cartoon boy.
Yeah.
Two, two Malala and three Greta Thunberg. But
Yeah.
I remember once, and this is going off way off track, and we will get back on track. Someone who's a little bit older than me, I didn't know his age, he was trying to understand how Roy could work. So I had to try and explain the fact that it's a TV show. So I don't know how they managed to give birth to a cartoon boy, but it's they've done it. They've done it.
They've done it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen Roy. I'm just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but it's one of
Obviously I've
those
seen Roy.
it's one of those things. There's only made a CB program called Little Roy about Roy as a smaller child. Oh, it gets even worse. But the I mean Roy is one of those things that everyone in every generation has something to sort of question. Some people say, "Oh, Ghostwatch is the most scariest thing ever."
Yeah.
For us, I think the scariest thing ever is Roy.
Yeah.
Because where else could she have in Ireland of all places? And he didn't even have an Irish accent. I don't even think Roy had an Irish accent. But I mean, I questioned my sanity, and then I realised it's not mine to question it. It's whoever created Roy.
Yeah,
But
exactly. That's true.
yeah, but on that cartoon note, we shall spin on to I think I'm gonna say it's question number 7 because I don't know what question I'm on, and we've talked too much about a cartoon boy called Roy, um, who is inevitably very funny and
Yeah.
somehow blonde. So. So this is again my favorite word of the hour, philosophical. But at what point did you realize, or did someone have to tell you? Because I don't know if it's something that crops up on you saying, "Oh, I didn't know that." But at what point did you realize you were comically funny, or funny in general, in the sense of like you were making other people laugh, and you yourself said to yourself. Oh, I like that. Oh, give me more. Not that creepy. In that creepy way.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Um, probably like high school, like early high
Yeah.
school. I guess that I was always sort of like the funny one.
Mm,
And then I used to be, and it's not something that I can actually do anymore.
yeah.
I used to be really good at impressions and accents,
Mm,
and like I could impersonate people that I knew really
yeah.
easily, and so I would do impressions of the teachers in high school. And then the teachers quite liked it, and eventually it got to the point where I was asked to do it as part of like a showcase type thing. So then I did that, and that was essentially
Yeah.
like my first gig. Um, and I loved that. And then I was kind of like, all right, okay. Left it to the side
Mm,
until I was in Costa Rica. But I guess, yeah, And I do think it is a totally different thing to be funny off stage and be funny on stage.
Yeah,
And I think that the ways in which I can be funny are totally different in both. And I couldn't tell you when I grasped how to be funny
yeah,
as a comedian rather than just as a person. Um, like I have no idea how I wrote my first set,
yeah.
if that makes sense, like how I knew what those jokes were to be or whatever. But yeah, I think early teenage years and then late teenage years for like on stage.
Yeah. And you mentioned their impression and accent. I'm very good at doing bad impression. I once tried to do an impression of Keir Starmer and it sounded like Kenneth Williams by accident, and then I just went into for Kenneth Williams. But I do think I'm very good at doing an impression of someone doing an impression of Zoidberg from Futurama.
Okay.
Because 'cause I knew someone that did an impression of Zoidberg.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Um, and I didn't ask. And then obviously when I was trying to tell someone else about someone else doing an impression of Zoidberg, I was able to do. But it's a bit where he goes whoop, 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 whoop. It's that bit. Zoidberg. Um, who thought I was going to do that? Not me. Um, but as but but people always say, and this is a common thing, that as a child when you're in primary school or the American equivalent. And some, not every school, but most schools do an activity at some point. As a child, what some people say that the most well-known person, the most person that goes on to be stage presence and more entertaining, are never the Mary and the Joan. They're never the main characters, right? Some of them are like door number four because there's too many people in the class. They've had to invent
Yeah.
character. In primary school, when you did all these shows, which you were forced to do, generally, I mean, in my aspect, you were thought you had to do it. There,
Yeah.
there was no choice. I wanted to do it, obviously, but where were you in the sense of when you were doing a TV show or a school, but were you always like one of the side characters, or were you the rare exception where you were one of the main characters, and obviously you've gone on to have a stellar career.
Um, in the nativity, I think that I know for sure that one year I was an angel, but I was not the angel Gabriel. I
Yeah,
was just, yeah, yeah, like one of the lackey angels.
yeah, angel number three.
Yeah. Has your lights went off?
Yeah, but but yeah, but we power on. We power on.
Okay. Um, yeah, so um I was like angel number three or something like
Yeah,
that. And then I don't fully remember the second year, but I think I might have been a
yeah.
sheep.
Wow.
Potentially why I've got this haircut now, but
Yeah,
and then so small roles in both
yeah,
nativities. And then in later primary school, we did Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat,
yeah.
and I was the oldest brother who had like one sort of solo number, but that was like a singing thing. And then we did a play about World War II, and I was the
Wow.
main character in that. I
Oh,
was the granny slash the narrate. No, no, I was just the granny, and that was a comedy
right.
character,
Oh,
and it
right.
was
Okay.
like, yeah, I was like deliberately casting a comedy character, and then in the last year
Yeah.
of primary school, we did um a play about us, so it was like everyone was cast in a role of like, where could this person be? What job is this
Oh,
person
yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah.
And I was a politician.
Oh,
That's what I was cast
wow.
as. Um,
Yeah. My
which has
main
not come to fruition.
no, my main question is how can you do comedy in a play about World War Two? It's it's not necessarily the funniest. I mean, it's obviously Blackadder managed to do it with World War One, but that
Yeah.
wasn't the horrific part of the war. But how do you make comedy out of World War Two?
And so the character was like a granny who was telling her the granny was set in modern
Yeah,
day Scotland,
yeah,
and she was telling her granddaughter stories about the war and things that would happen. So we would come in
yeah,
on between the acts, and like a lot of people would be playing soldiers or
yeah,
evacuees or things like that. We
yeah.
would come on in between that and do like the filler bits, I guess.
So I like the film Titanic because the old woman at the beginning of it, there's an old
I've
woman
never
that
seen Titanic. Is there an old woman at the beginning of it that
what
like recalls it?
right, what happens is when you turn on the TV, you're not too sure what film you're watching because not everyone remembers this old woman that tells this tale. She's a survivor of the Titanic, so she's
Right,
telling the story, but no one remembers her. So they always
right.
remember everything else about Titanic, but then when they rewatch it, going, what's this woman doing? Because she's not the memorable thing about Titanic, or even
Yeah.
in any of the posters or anything. She's not Kate
I'm
Winslet.
I don't, maybe I could be completely wrong. Is her name Eva?
I don't know her name. I just know she's an old woman
Yeah.
that's trapped in some sort of control room telling the story about Titanic to these men.
That's so interesting because I think that there's a really famous Titanic survivor who's called Eva. Because you know when you're like a teenager or whatever
Yeah.
and you want to know all of the people ever that are famous that have the same name as you, which
Yeah.
for you would be like everyone in comedy ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what she's called, but it is one of those things where you find out quite quickly that you've got a common name.
Yeah.
For me, I found out I had a common name when I wasn't allowed to use some username I wasn't allowed to use Tom Mason, so I went for official Tom Mason, but I
Yeah.
misspelled the word official for like 6 months,
No
and
way.
then when I spell it right, someone had already taken the correct spelling of the word official, so I had to have an underscore, I can't stand.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't make it seem very official if you
no,
have to have
so
an underscore.
so I'm not the official Tom Mason, which could possibly in 10, 15 years time or whenever someone says to you you might want to change your name, that might become a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's the problem because obviously as you definitely know there's at one point I don't know if it's still a thing anymore, but I think it's equity. It might be equity, but they might not do it anymore. Where they have a database of everyone with your every name ever, and
Yeah.
if you've got the same name as someone more famous than you, then obviously you might have to change your name.
Oh, really?
So like David Tennant's David McDonald was there's already a David McDonald, and so
Yeah.
he had to become David Tennant. And then he didn't want to change that in America, so he had to legally become David Tennant. So he had to change his
Oh,
birth
wow.
certificate. That's why she's Georgia Tennant because she can no longer be a McDonald because McDonald's no longer exists because obviously
Right.
he legally changed his last name because he would have had to be called something else in America because it was
Yeah.
already a David Tennant.
Wow.
And you could keep your own name if
If
that was
it's,
actually your name.
yeah, that
So
is wild.
yeah. So but there's not I don't know many famous Tom Masons. Well, I do know one famous Tom Mason. It's me because I'm famous in my own lunchtime.
That's,
Which is quite handy. Because it is my own lunchtime. But on that note, we shall spin on to our final question in the wheel, and then we can escape the darkness.
yeah.
Um, because obviously you don't prepare for these things. So from so a lot of comedians, a lot of upcoming comedians these days, go up to Edinburgh for a few years and do flyering and work for the Palace
Yeah.
Courtyard or whatever. No, most notably, Kathy Rivette is the one I can clearly think of.
Yeah.
She does a lot of flyering and also then says, "Can I have a gig somewhere?"
Yeah.
Which sort of I think sort of helps you because you probably get a better outlook of how the Fringe runs from a
Yeah.
beginner's point of view instead of just going up and hoping for the best. But from if I don't know if you've ever done firing for any of these places or if you've been up before. How do you think the Fringe over the years you've been attending or going or witnessing, how do you think it's improved?
Um, I guess I don't really have enough experience. Like I've only I do remember being a child and coming into Edinburgh for like a day
Yeah,
to watch a couple shows or whatever. But you have a different perspective when you're like on the outside of it, um, compared to when you're actually like part of it in some way. I think that there's definitely a a nice trend of like people are being kinder to
Yeah,
flyers. Like that's definitely a thing. I think it was 2023 there was quite a big stink made by flyers for, I think it was actually flyers for Monkey Barrel, who
yeah,
basically said like you get treated terribly and people are horrible to you on the street, and then the venue staff are not very nice to you, or maybe not the venue staff, but like the management are not
yeah,
very nice to you. So that's good. I feel like people are more aware of that. Um and I definitely I've done plenty flyering. I actually quite enjoy flyering. I'll be flyering again
yeah,
this year for other people as well as probably for myself. And definitely last year generally people were nicer, and like even in Pleasance Courtyard, like if you're going up to tables, sometimes people don't want to be spoken
yeah,
to, but they'll rarely be rude to you. I find that it was only groups of young-ish or old men
yeah,
that were quite rude to me, but that's fine. I can
yeah.
deal with that.
Was he all wearing hoods? Because that's what I deem to be the
Really?
yeah hooded youth would be the ones to avoid just in case. Not all of
Yeah.
them, not all of them. It's just because of the stereotype
Yeah.
of the youth. Now you might want to back off. And so on that note, as we reach the end of the wheel didn't choose our main objective. So let's enter the zone if we can without damaging anything. Let's enter the zone of in the world of darkness. Let's brighten up the world. Now, could you tell people what is your Edinburgh show for 2026 all about? Thank you very much.
Yeah, so the show is called Jungled, and it's about me, uh, at 17 years old, moving to Costa Rica. Before I left for Costa Rica, I'd like left school. I was quite into like drugs and things like that. Like that, the group of friends that I was with were these hooded youths that you would
Yeah,
totally avoid. And so it's about someone like that moving to Costa Rica. And then from there on, it's sort of your typical coming of age story,
yeah,
except it's filled with
yeah,
things that happen in Costa Rica. So yeah, and then moving back to Scotland.
yeah,
So that's the story. It's also, I would say, the main theme of the show is patriotism and
yeah,
what it means to be from somewhere.
yeah.
So those are the main themes, and the Costa Rica storyline is the story.
And you mentioned there coming of age. My main question is, what age do you become? Because you always say coming of age story, but what age is it that you become in?
I think I think it is 18, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like I think for most people the coming of age is like between sort of 18 and 20,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And if you're in America, that's probably 21.
Yeah.
Because obviously, yeah. But so what I'm trying to get the correct word. What maturity age? What age is your show for? Like who? What audience members are allowed in? Shall we say?
No one under 16. That's what I said to the venue, 16 plus.
Yeah,
Um, and then I was kind of hoping that because I'm a young person,
yeah,
everyone who's going to want to come to my show is going to be young people. But you know what? Like, see, when I've been doing the
yeah,
previews, my audiences have just been your normal comedy audience who are like probably like middle-aged or
yeah,
whatever. And I know that the Gilded Balloon audience skews even more
yeah,
middle-aged than like a Pleasance audience, for example. So middle-aged people are so totally welcome. I'll definitely not comment on how disgustingly old you are, and how you're like twice my age and how your kids are probably like my age. Um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So everyone over 16 is welcome
yeah.
for sure.
Where can people get the tickets for the show?
Yeah, you can get the tickets on Gilded Balloon website or you can get them on the Fringe website, but I don't get taxed as much if you get them off the Gilded Balloon website. So that would be a real treat.
And can people get tickets in person if they're just walking about on the day and see one of your posters and go, that actually does look quite good. I might go and see that.
Yeah. You can get them from the box office in any of the Gilded Balloon venues, but I'm in TV. Or you can I have pay what you want tickets, so you can come in for free and then pay on the way out if there are spaces available for that show.
Yeah. And where can people find the venue that you're performing and what's the layout location wise?
It's in TVA, which is reopened now. It's been closed for like the past 2 or 3 years, I think. It's on Bristol Square. It's the big, massive, tall Harry Potter looking building.
Yeah.
Um, that'll have the big gilded balloon sign on it. And inside the venue, I'm downstairs, and it's the only room that's downstairs.
Um, and what time and how many days are you performing?
I'm performing from the 5th until the 30th, not the 17th. Um, every day at 20 to 5, 4:40.
And you mentioned the 17th, which I don't know if everyone's noticed the irony there, because your show's about being 17 and you're not on the
Mm,
17th. But
that is funny.
what are you going to be doing on your day off?
So I had planned on having like a proper day off, but and like my girlfriend was gonna come through to Edinburgh and maybe like see the shows that are on at times that
Yeah,
clash with like when I'll need to be preparing for my show or when I'll have just finished my show. Um, but I don't know if you are aware of Paul Snedden, Vladimir McTavish, who was a legend of Scottish comedy scene who sadly passed away like a week ago.
yes, I do know.
Yeah. He was going to be running a compilation show at the Dragonfly, which
Yeah,
has obviously had to be taken over by another comedian.
yeah,
And um the other comedian offered me a spot on his compilation show, and the only day that I could do it was the 17th because it clashes with my show. So I'll
yeah.
be doing Vladimir McTavish's show. It's very nice what the guy who's running it is doing is he's Vlad would headline it every
Yeah.
year. He would headline his own show, and he's still going to be the headliner, and they're just going to play a clip of one
Ah,
of his stand-up shows. So I think that that'll be a really nice thing to do.
yeah,
And so I'll be doing that, and I'll be like sleeping probably.
yeah. Oh, that sounds quite nice because I do think that in recent years there's been a lot of
Yeah.
shock comedy deaths
Yeah.
in a sense of you don't expect it to occur. So I do think when they do these sort of tributes, so I think the most recent one I've seen on TV. So in the UK, as you probably know, E4 are now airing airing a series of Australian Bake Off.
Right.
And Cal Wilson, who's I would say the Sean Lock of Australia.
Oh,
She worked a lot with Adam Hills, and
yeah.
she was like she did QI about twice, I think.
Right.
And she was one of the hosts of well, she was that I think she'd only it was her second year doing a Bake Off in Australia.
Yeah.
She sadly passed away not so long after
Oh,
filming, and they managed because she was off twice during the filming. They managed to work in tributes to her. So the
oh,
very
that's
beginning, the very
nice.
first episode, you get a tribute, and then at the which I'm assuming just a UK only thing because halfway through the series you get the proper
Right.
she couldn't make it. She was no longer allowed to film the rest of the series. She became really ill, and no one was
Mm.
aware that she was going to pass away straight
Yeah.
after the series had ended because she was no longer in any other more episodes because
Yeah.
she was ill and no one knew it was that severe. So I do think that having these tributes
Yeah, it's nice.
and making sure that there's because of the way the world we're in now, there's enough footage of these people. So it's nice when you hear stuff like that where you
Yeah.
can still have these people headlining these games because there's enough footage out there. And do you think that that's going to be one of the nicest aspects of people filming loads of gigs? Is it when someone that is beloved, whether or not on TV or whether or not in the live circuit, there'll be enough footage for people to still view these people, and there'll be enough footage for when you need to do all these immemorial things for these things. You've got enough footage still to play it, even if they never made it big on TV.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think that that's like one step forward the industry is making because
Yeah.
of the film and everything. You could go, well, they were amazing. Here's why.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people, as you probably know, there's a lot of people on the circuit that never make it to TV, whether or not they don't want to or anything.
Yeah.
And then they are like they're like the legend of that area, if you like, a Scottish icon that everyone loved, but you've
Yeah.
never seen him. And I think that that's sort of quite nice. And do you think doing that gig will be more of a sincere atmosphere because it's not just a well-known gig, but it's also a tribute show, if you will.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, like hopefully it'll people will want to come out and honor him. Um and it'll be a nice atmosphere, nice environment. I mean, the guy that's taken over is like lovely, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that he'll do his absolute best to honor the lad.
Yeah. And people probably sat there still wondering the pondering question. What is a compilation show? Is it like your best material or is it one of those where it's like you're on for like 3 minutes and you're off and then you're back on later on because it's like a one of those like compilation specials where they come back to the same people?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you do 10 minutes, and so it'll have like five comedians doing
Yeah,
10 minutes. Sometimes it's your best material. I feel like when I was doing them last year during the Fringe,
yeah,
I would do good material, but I wouldn't do my best material because then you want people to come to the show and be like, "Oh wow, there was loads of other good stuff," rather than like, "Oh, well, I'd already seen all of the best jokes."
yeah. Yeah. And so there we have it. Another glorious, lovely, wonderful interview. Now, for people that got this far into the interview, could you please remind people the title of your show, where people can purchase tickets, what time, and the venue, please? Thank you.
Yeah, Jungled at TV at Nook every day 20 to 5. You can get tickets on Gilded Balloon or Fringe websites.
And so there we have it. As we close this interview, there'll be more coming soon. We wish us here, me and the viewers, wish you very good luck for your Edinburgh Fringe
Thank
show.
you.
And we hope the Fringe runs smoothly for everyone else watching that might be attending. Or if you're Mark Nielsen, if you're watching this, Mark Nielsen, just have a word with one of the producers because you can get either on do one of those little segments you do on Edinburgh Unlocked. Depending on what version of segments you're doing, you can decide. We want more. We want more youth on Edinburgh Unlocked.
So true, so
Yeah,
true.
we're fine with like 20, like 30, but I just think we need more youth.
Yeah.
Lower it down even so slightly because there's a lot of good youth out there. Um, uh, there's a lot. It depends what area you're in
Yeah.
and what youth we're talking about. So
Yeah.
there you go. We've had a we've had a really good time. The joke to them when you start laughing in the middle of it. We've had a really good time. It's been a wheel lot of fun, and that's where the wheel-based puns end.
Okay.
We'll be back for more. Who knows which Edinburgh Fringe show we'll be promoting next? Only time will tell. I mean, we won't be doing any more after August, but the the, the time of short periods of time will tell. And I'll be out of the darkness. I'll be less Dracula and more. I can't think of an opposite to Dracula. More Frankenstein, but I'm not a monster.